Thanks, Doc. This chair seems like it's lower. That's better. Yeah, I am. But speak to me. I got you. I hear you, John. You're right. So at the top of A1A, I will pause. Details on these stories coming up. But first, let's go to. Okay. Here we go. Good morning, everyone. Deborah Marchini is out today. A federal judge scuttles the Exxon Valdez settlement, calling it, quotes, inadequate. The government seizes 12,000 gallons of orange juice made by Procter & Gamble, claiming it is falsely labeled as fresh. And the bottom may finally be dropping out on Donald Trump's empire. He's reportedly about to turn over some marquee properties to his creditors. Details on these stories coming up, but first, let's deal with joblessness. The ranks of the unemployed still appear to be growing in the U.S. In less than an hour, the Labor Department reports on how many new people have filed for unemployment insurance. Economists estimate 500,000 more Americans claimed unemployment benefits in early April alone. Now, ahead of today's report, interest rates and the dollar are holding steady. The U.S. currency is up slightly against the major world currencies. It is at 1.75 German marks and 138 Japanese yen. Long-term interest rates on hold. 8.20% is the yield on the Treasury's 30-year benchmark bond, and that follows a dip in rates yesterday on stronger-than-expected demand for 2-year Treasury notes, which were auctioned late in the day. The United States has depended upon Japan to buy its debt for a long time now, but now the Japanese have more than enough credit to buy at home. Todd Benjamin reports on that from Tokyo. The Valdez VO was held obviously too long, but little shadow there, Doug. Is there? Okay, 20 out on 3. A mixed picture on the international stock markets today. In Tokyo, the Nikkei average lost ground for the 5th time in the last 6 sessions. The drop this time, almost 300 points. That's more than 1%. The index now just above the 26,000 level. However, German share prices are surging this morning. In Frankfurt, the DAX index is up 1%. In Paris, stock prices there up 0.25%. The German strength, however, has not spilled over into London. Shares there are slipping. The FT 100 down nearly 2 points. It's back to 24.86. Boeing stock is up 1/8 of a point in London trading, however. That after yet another multi-million-dollar order for Boeing equipment. This time, the Air Force has contracted Boeing to work on 2 missile programs. They'll pay Boeing about $750 million for the work. Tuesday, Boeing was part of the team awarded a $75 billion contract by the Air Force to build jet fighters. And Donald Trump is going to dismantle his empire to stave off his creditors. Today's New York Times reports that Trump is working on a deal to turn over some of his biggest properties to his bankers. In return, Trump gets out of paying back millions of dollars on his loans. Under the deal, the Trump shuttle flies off to Northwest Airlines, and Trump's yacht will go to a subsidiary of American Express. His 50% stake in New York's Grand Hyatt Hotel will go to Bankers Trust. Citicorp will get his 27% stake in department store Alexander's, while his Regency Hotel in Atlantic City will be sold, and the money will go to Manufacturers Hanover. One of junk bond king Michael Milken's top aides has cut a deal. Federal thrift regulators have agreed to drop their case against James Dahl. In return, Dahl will cooperate in lawsuits that link Milken with the savings and loan scandal. That's from today's Wall Street Journal. The move is seen as a boost for the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. It is building a $6 billion civil suit against Milken. It wants to show Milken rigged the junk bond market to defraud the savings and loan industry. Up next on Business Day, Germany, Japan, the U.S., and interest rates. A preview of this weekend's G7 meeting coming up in Washington. And our guest will be Erwin Stelzer of the American Enterprise Institute. We'll be back in 1 minute. It's nice to have you with us. I want to tell you real fast, we're going to have about 3 minutes of air time. So fast, never score on television. Make your point. Eye contact with me all the way through. At the end of it, hold still. C7. I want to keep it fairly general, if I may. Sure. Does the G7 central self-interest of public good? Fine, okay. U.S. wants lower interest rates. We're going to get it?
No.
Germany's Karl Otto Pohl of the central bank in the Financial Times this morning in London, front page interview. No deal. It's not on the agenda. Cutting German rates out of the question.
It's not going to happen.
Okay. The Japanese say, Tokyo officials say, yeah, we'll buckle under, maybe.
Not likely.
Fine.
Excuse me
Go.
1 second, sir. Sir, when Stewart acknowledges you, please acknowledge that camera when he introduces you.
All
Then
right.
after that, ignore the camera.
Talk to him.
10 seconds.
Ignore me.
Ignore him.
You can. On to with a turn. Here's the outlook from the bankers to the Western world, that is the International Monetary Fund. The world's economy is stuck in neutral. The IMF forecasts a growth rate of just 1% for this year, down from 2% in 1990. However, it sees a rebound to a steady 3% growth rate next year. The IMF, though, sees that rebound coming in 1992, not this year. Now, the United States is pressuring Japan and Germany to push interest rates down, all of that to try and get the global economy moving. Germany's central bank chairman says no deal, there'll be no cut in German rates. Sources out of Tokyo say Japan may buckle under and cut rates there. Joining us this morning with a preview of this weekend's G7 talks is Erwin Stelzer. He is a resident scholar with the American Enterprise Institute. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
First of all, a general question about G7 and the mechanism. Does it work in the sense that individual members subvert national self-interest for the world's good?
No, that can't happen. It's not likely that any politician is going to subvert his own domestic political interests in the interest of some other domestic political politician.
Well, this time around, it's the United States that's pressuring hard for a cut in rates elsewhere. Is that going to work?
No, that won't happen. Brady went to London a week or so ago to press that position and lost, and he's not going to prevail now.
Well, okay, this morning Germany's central bank chairman says no deal. They're not going to cut rates. That's pretty firm. But we do have officials in Tokyo saying, well, they may buckle under. They may cut rates. You don't think it's going to happen?
I don't think so. They also say they may let rice imports come in, and they're not going to. So I think they're trying to be agreeable before dinner on Sunday, and that's about it.
Would you write off this G7 process entirely and forget about it?
Well, I think it certainly is much overblown. The idea that you're going to subordinate your domestic interests to some international goal is just plain silly. I do think it has some value in the sense that they can agree, for instance, and they probably will agree, to a coordinated policy on holding back aid from Russia until they reform the price system, and on trying to get the IMF and other lenders to lend more to private companies than to governments. But on things like interest rates and coordinated growth and so on, I think it's a silly exercise.
The leading subjects, then, of coordinating at world growth rates and getting interest rates down around the world, that's just a talking shop, no action at all.
I don't think they could do it. If they agreed to do it, they can't control exchange rates or interest rates. The markets will, and they won't agree anyhow. So it's as I say, it's nice to get together for dinner, but that's about it.
Secondary issues. If I can call trade a secondary issue, perhaps one should not, but if you can say that, any progress on the trade front? And I'm thinking in terms of Japanese imports of rice, for example.
Well, I think there will be some progress in the sense that the pressure on Europe to reform agricultural subsidies so that the Uruguay round can go ahead will probably work. I think there'll be some pressure in that direction in this round of meetings. As far as pressure on the Japanese go, I think the only thing they understand really is you give in on this or we're going to do that to you. The reciprocity argument, that's ugly, it's not good economics, but it seems to be the only thing that works with them.
Are you from the confrontational school?
I'd like to go to the brink and never over it. I don't know how you time that quite.
I mean, could we have a trade war here?
We could have I think there's a very definite danger of a trade war, of a three-block trade war, an Asian, European, North American trade war, especially coming out of a 1992 Europe, which seems to be headed toward a fortress Europe. I think that's, as Mrs. Thatcher has pointed out, that's a very, very great danger.
You see this as a really dangerous possibility, then?
I do. I think that is the one cloud on an otherwise very, very bright economic horizon.
Well, let's pick up on that for a second. A very bright economic horizon.
Yes.
We've just said that we're not going to get global interest rates down. G7's not going to do anything. The global economy is kind of sluggish. But to you, it's kind of bright. Well,
I think it's bright. The bank crisis is over. The Latin American debt crisis is over. The trade imbalances are going away. The American economy is going to recover. The IMF forecast that you cited is for 3% growth in 1992. And I think we can mess it up with a trade war. If we don't do that, I think things will be fine.
G7 a talking shop, no worth at all, but the global economy is doing all right. Thanks very much.
I think that's right. I think ministers don't matter, markets do.
Good enough. Erwin Seltzer from the American Enterprise Institute. We thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And we'll have more news for you on Business Day in just 1 minute. Hold on for a second. We might close with a... I still think of her as a real...
8 of us talking about a political future.
Has she got a political future?
I think so. Thank you.
What role would it be?
She wants to wait till after the May 2nd election. She doesn't want to.
1 second. 15 minutes to the hour, please, prompter. And Patrick Greenlaw. Do you see... would you like to stay with me and chat for whilst we're doing the commercials? Yeah, hold still for a minute. This is interesting. You see her having a role in British politics or European politics? Sorry, does my guest have to leave? Oh, yeah, that's right. We're just going to move you out the shot a second. Please do stay there, though. British politics or European politics? What role would that be? The House of Lords?
No, she should stay. She ought to stay. On important issues, mainly she cares about Europe. She's so against federal military.
So am I. Yeah. Just let the markets do it all for you.
Free trading.
Yes, don't formalize these things. Ah. A bunch of welfare bureaucrats sitting in Brussels trying to run things. Thank you. Give me a turn at the bottom of C2, please, prompt. Oh, I got it anyway. Patrick Greenlaw. 15-2. Don't worry about it. Soviet forces flexing some muscle again in Lithuania. Special forces reportedly seizing 2 sports clubs, 2 airfields and a number of buildings. One site captured in the capital of Vilnius houses a Lithuanian bank controlled by the local government, as well as a branch of the Soviet Central Bank. So far, though, it's business as usual at both of those banks. Meanwhile, in China, prices of basic goods are on the rise. People in Beijing standing in lines to stock up on rice, flour and oil. They can buy at the old prices until May the 10th if they hold old ration coupons. Economists hail the decision to raise prices as a move towards market-oriented reforms. And we have the time now at 15 minutes before the hour. It's time to check the latest news headlines with Patrick Greenlaw. Good morning, Patrick. I do. Excuse me 1 second. I'm so sorry to interrupt you because this is interesting stuff for a Brit. Yeah. I got it in. Yep. Right, now stop dead at the bottom of C8. She's extremely intense, isn't she?
I said, trying to be nice to a monetarist, but I'm not a monetarist. I said, no, please, she said, M or M3? I said, and she said, well, I think we got one. Which one's an argument in favor of M1? I said, this is one. I was there with Norman McRae, Mick Ridley was there.
Yeah.
I mean, it was the first 3, and I called my wife there, I said, I think I'm going to take him in. This was, I could see where she sat.
I suppose. Thank you, Patrick. The final year of Exxon's cleanup of the Valdez oil spill gets underway this week, but while Exxon may be wrapping up its work on the Alaska coast, its settlement of criminal and civil charges is up in the air again. A federal judge yesterday threw out the proposed $100 million criminal settlement, saying it was too small. He says the fine was not enough to deter future oil spills. The decision surprised a lot of people, including Alaska's governor. Exxon has 30 days to decide what to do next. The case could go to trial if another plea agreement is not reached. By the way, Exxon stock is down 1/8 of a point in London this morning. The country's biggest matzah maker has had better luck settling charges against it. Manischewitz has gotten a judge to say yes to a no-contest plea to price-fixing charges. The plea will be entered Friday in a New Jersey court. The company will be fined either $1 million or 2 times its ill-gotten gains, whichever is bigger. The government goes after Procter & Gamble for allegedly misleading frozen orange juice, or mislabeling it rather, as fresh. The Food and Drug Administration seizing 12,000 gallons of the juice from a Minnesota warehouse. FDA Commissioner David Kessler says Citrus Hill isn't fresh, like it says on the label. It's made from water and concentrate. P&G says it'll stand by its juice, still calling it fresh while it tries to iron things out with the government. The FDA will soon complete its investigation of breast implants and their possible link to cancer. Recent questions about breast implants mean big problems for the women who have them. And Bristol Myers Squibb, of course, that's the company that makes them. Kitty Pilgrim has more on that. Her son, Mark?
She's trying to raise money for this foundation, and she won't talk to anybody. She refers them to Mark. So I know somebody who's going to give $7 million. So I can contact Mark, and Mark's on $7 between each with the Mark. So I don't understand what Mark's working on is 10.
Yes. Spare us, please. Oh, God. I guess, you know, the woman's such a colossus on the international stage. Any relative or acquaintance virtually is going to pale by comparison and won't measure up to the standard of quality she set. Yep. Yep. Tres expector flat. Okay, insert at the bottom of C8, please, right at the very bottom, at the opening bell. Yeah, just put that in. I just want to qualify when this loss will take place. Thanks. What do you think about the poll tax and Major's retreat? Politically necessary, do you think? Yeah. Yeah, I do.
She was theoretically right.
Yeah.
Politically wrong.
As she often is.
Round three.
Three. A dull day on Wall Street may be in the works today. We'll see, of course. If share prices, that is, take a cue from U.S. stocks which trade in London. Trading's real slow so far. Some of yesterday's winners are a bit higher again today, though. Lockheed and Boeing both up 1/8 of a point. Oil shares among today's losers. In a profit-taking retreat, most oil issues are down 1/8. Traders expect a flat to 5-point loss on the Dow Industrials, at least at the opening bell. You heard that the Japanese NHK, National Broadcasting of Japan, they're starting up what they hope will be a counter force to CNN, based in New York. And they want to use more local content and local perspective from Europe, Asia, and North America. Plus, if FNN goes to CNBC, General Electric, they've already got a tie-in with the BBC and an outfit called BizNews in Europe. So there could be a three-way deal on global news networks.
I spent 6 months starting at Sky.
You did?
Yeah.
Did you now?
Yeah. And,
Technology screwed that up, don't you think?
Well, it screwed up DSB.
Yes, but I mean, the
Murdoch got it.
no, but having two different
Yes, that made it very hard
and
to sell.
non-compatible systems made marketing a nightmare. Yeah.
Also, because, I mean, we selling dishes, getting a mechanism for distributing it all over the place wasn't because the high street shops didn't have it. But our own door-to-door hire storm
Did you really?
salesman.
30 seconds.
That's tough. My hometown is Derby. Last time I was up there, I went into Dixon's, you know, it's a chain of electronic stores, and I checked out the dish situation there, and they didn't seem really on the ball.
They don't know how to sell it.
They don't know how to sell it. Yeah. They were not very aggressive about it, I'll certainly say that. Which camera? 3? Thanks. Investors looking for financial information face more choices than ever these days. Among the newer options, electronic bulletin boards. All you need is a personal computer. Bill Hartley explains in today's edition of Your Money. Well, you've got an interesting resume there. Murdoch's and Sky, Margaret.
I got a good office.
You're on 3, we're closing answer.
Out on 3, turn to 2, right. Yeah, I think it's well written, by the way. It works. There's a good punchline at the very end. I like that. Well, it's like Cola Wars, I think. It's good for both sides. They can get down and dirty between Coke and Pepsi and both sides win. Yep. Yep. We should do a story on that. Where there are two giants in any given marketplace, it's in their interest to go at each other hard, knowing that they'll simply eclipse number 3, 4, and 5, because they'll build up the top 2 and solidify an oligopoly. Is that the right word, Chief? Thanks very much. Duopoly, I'll take. Yeah, right. I'd forgotten it from way back when. On 3 to 2. Right. Call it the domino effect, if you will. About 200 lucky Americans with the last name Domino got a free pizza delivered to their doorsteps yesterday, courtesy of Pizza Hut. It's just the latest volley in the great pizza delivery war. Domino's counterpunched immediately, offering a free pie to anyone who got one from Pizza Hut but didn't like it. That's business day for this Thursday. Daybreak's next. I'm Stuart Varney in New York. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again tomorrow. That's what it's all about. Well, the problem with TV business movies is that you can only pay to those broad questions.